On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the Formula One British Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody and welcome back to RevHang. I'm Nathan and alongside me virtually is my good friend and co-host Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
Hello, I'm partially covered in paint, but I've been putting some hours at the new house, getting all the rooms painted. One of them is green and red. Red on bottom, green on top. Or is it reversed? I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's got like a piece of chair trim kind of in the middle, blending the two. So, needless to say, we were painting it, well, beige. But we're keeping the chair trim.
Okay. You're just not a fan of the Christmas room?
Yeah, no, somebody said it looked like a pizzeria.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Like
Yeah,
a
and if that's
Sbarro's colors kind of thing.
yeah, and that's going to be my new office and server room, so I'd prefer it not to be that color.
You don't want to work at a pizzeria. Understandable. I have spent my time in pizza places.
Yeah, it's something
Uh,
I like to think I'm past that.
yeah, hopefully. Well, I hope the painting continues to go well for you. I've been seeing your updates on social media.
Yeah,
Uh, Looks good so far. I'm not a painter though, so my opinion is kind of void. But
it's
regardless, this
yeah,
is it's a racing podcast. Let's get into the racing. Uh, we only had one race to go over this week, and that is the Formula One British Grand Prix. No IndyCar this week, but we're going to be spoiled with 3 races before the next episode. So get everybody ready for that. It's going to be a long one. Come prepared to listen and sit for a while.
yeah. Just one race this
Or
week.
not.
We talk about paint.
Yep, yep. We're going to literally sit here and watch paint dry. But no, anyway. British Grand Prix, Formula One. Let's go through qualifying real quick. Surprise. Everybody was surprised. Max Verstappen on pole for the 5th time in a row, I think. 4th or 5th.
Definitely fifth.
But actual surprise. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were 2nd and 3rd. McLaren is back, baby, and I am here for it.
I was thinking about that the
Uh,
entire time watching qualifying in the race. It's like, Nathan's going to be so happy about this.
I am so ecstatic about this. And then 4th and 5th were the Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz. 6th and 7th were the Mercedes of Russell and Hamilton. And 8th through 10 was Albon, Alonso, and Gasly. Alex
Yeah,
Albon in a Williams doing great things. Logan Sargent also looked fantastic this week. He qualified 14th, but he almost made it through to Q3. Oh boy. The field is
yeah,
getting shaken
he,
up in the midfield in a big way, and I love it.
yeah. He kind of got caught out during Q2, and really didn't have a whole lot of time to run another. I don't know why he was in the pit for so long. Uh,
Yeah.
some adjustment or something, I'm sure, but he just ran out of time essentially to get enough laps under those tires to get him warmed up, or else I feel like he probably would have made it into Q3.
Probably. The Williams does look quite a bit better than it did at the beginning of the season, and quite a bit better than it has in a long time.
Yeah, and they
Um,
look really good on this track too. Silverstone's a fast track, and that really helped the Williams.
that's true. The Williams does seem to have really good speed, like top speed. So Monza's usually their go-to race when they do pretty well. That's where De Vries scored points in the Williams last year. Uh, so we'll see what happens this year. Um, but that is still several races away.
Yeah, and it
uh,
won't be DeVries scoring points, I don't think.
Probably not. No, if he's even driving the car by
Might not
then.
even
But
be
we're
in a
gonna get into
commercial.
that a little later. Yeah. All right, going into the race. Lando Norris took the lead of the Grand Prix after a fantastic start on lap 1. Verstappen dropped to 2nd and had to battle Piastri to retain that spot as well. Piastri did get a great start just behind Norris, but he kind of got stuck behind the 2 cars and had nowhere to go, so he filtered back to 3rd where he started. Verstappen followed Norris until DRS was activated and then quickly retook the lead on lap 5 with pretty much no issues. Lando didn't even really defend it because what's the point? Um, On lap 7, Lewis Hamilton passed Fernando Alonso for P7 after he dropped back a few spots on the start. He didn't have a great start. Perez at this point started to make his way through the field after starting 16th. On lap, it says lap 5 on my script, but I think it was more like lap 10. De Vries hit Hülkenberg and caused damage to both cars, and Hülkenberg did have to pit after that. Magnussen had an engine failure on lap 32 after quite a few laps of procession, and that caused a safety car, which shook things up quite a bit. The leaders pit under the safety car. Verstappen and Hamilton took softs, and Norris took hards. Piastri also took hards, but he pitted right before the safety car happened. Norris defended for his life as his tires warmed up on the restart and managed to retain P2 until Hamilton's tires started to wear off behind him. On lap 44, Perez overtook Sainz for P7, and then Albon and Leclerc followed him through. So Sainz dropped to 10th place in 4 corners, which was, I'm sure, absolutely devastating. On lap 46, Lance Stroll hit Pierre Gasly and broke his suspension, and that earned Stroll a 5-second penalty. Since it took Gasly out of the race, I think that was a little bit on the lighter side. A slap on the wrist, if you will. Stroll was just he's been playing bumper cars all season. But we're going to get into that a little bit, too. On lap 47, Perez passed Alonso for P6. And that kind of wrapped up the race, and it ended with Verstappen, Norris, and Hamilton on the podium.
Yeah, Norris did have a good kind of exciting last couple laps defending from Lewis.
Yes.
I think it was Lewis, right? Yeah.
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 I mean, it was right after the restart, but...
Yeah, who was it? Had like a really good last couple laps fending off another driver.
Well, Piastri was catching Hamilton.
Oh, it was Albon and Leclerc. That's who it was.
Albon. Yep, Albon and Leclerc were fighting. And then Alonso. Yeah. There was everybody was pretty close in the midfield for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That safety car even had Verstappen kind of reined in a little closer to the rest of the field.
Yeah, Verstappen only finished 3.7 seconds ahead of Lando Norris in second, so definitely not the 30 seconds we're used to.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I know you're not supposed to like the safety cars coming out for driver's sake, but I actually really enjoyed the fact that safety car hit. I think that actually made for a pretty exciting race.
Yeah, it hit at the perfect time too, right at everybody's pit window. Yeah, I mean, safety cars just make racing more interesting in general, I think.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't want to see anybody crash and get hurt, but at the same time, it does make the racing more exciting a lot of the time.
Yeah, I dream of a day where one day we don't need that, but...
Yeah. That's called esports, Ben.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Another racing series? No.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going into F1 2023 esports. What's his face? Jarno Opmeer is the championship leader. He is the Max Verstappen of this series. No. Anyway, that's a tangent. All right. Results of the race. First through 10th. Were Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Piastri, Russell, Perez, Alonso, Albon, Leclerc, and Sainz. 11 through 15 was Sargent, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Stroll, and Zhou. 16 through and 17 rounding off the finishers were Tsunoda and De Vries, both AlphaTauris, and then our DNFs were Gasly, Magnussen, and Ocon. Horrible day for Alpine. Double DNF.
And watching McLaren get so high up in the standings.
Yeah, second and fourth. Looking down here at the championship standings, McLaren has officially jumped Alpine out of nowhere. Like, Alpine, we talked about it on a podcast, I think it was 2 episodes ago. Alpine was on an island by themselves, and there was no one close to them, in front of them, or behind them. And 2 races later, McLaren is now in front of them by
Yeah,
12
well
points.
in front of them.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I don't
Lando
think
is now.
is fast enough to catch up necessarily.
I don't know. It's
I don't
gonna
know.
take something pretty special. If this McLaren thing is not like a fluke for 2 races, and they actually are arguably the second or third fastest car on the grid right now.
That'd
Um,
be insane.
I don't see Alpine catching up, but I also didn't see McLaren even being really a midfield team this year. So uh, anything can happen. It's. I don't think I've ever seen mid-season upgrades affect a car this much ever.
Maybe.
Um,
Well, there's the engine upgrade for Mercedes in Brazil in 2021, or was it
but that wasn't
2020?
really. I think that
That
was
wasn't
20.
mid-season.
No, it was 2021, and it wasn't really an upgrade. It was the fact that they had such reliable engines that they were using their last allotted engine for the last 2 races of the season, so they were able to turn it up to max without
Okay,
because they didn't have to worry about reliability. So they
gotcha.
turned it up to get the maximum performance out of it. Um, so while everybody did call that the Mercedes rocket ship engine, it was literally just the regular Mercedes engine at 100% speed. Whereas normally they don't run it that fast to preserve it longer.
Yeah, but that's
Um,
the same kind of performance leap that I feel like we saw here.
yeah, that's fair. Um, sure, we've seen big jumps like that between seasons, like Aston Martin, for example, this year. Uh, Huge performance leap, but yeah, mid-season upgrades just from like after 2 weeks or 2 races of upgrades, it's like they're a completely different car now. Uh, and they have more upgrades coming in Hungary next race, so it's it's gonna be pretty interesting to see what happens.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, I think McLaren might actually have the fastest Mercedes-powered car on the grid at this point, at
yeah,
least
it's hard to
in this
say.
race.
Yeah, that's the thing is it's really hard to say because I mean it looks like they're really good on straights and in high speed corners, um, but we haven't seen a ton of we haven't really seen any of them in like slower tracks because Austria and Britain are both super fast tracks. Um, so seeing them in low speed corners like in Hungary is going to be the real test to see where they are.
Yeah,
But then, well, yeah, Hungary and Spa and Netherlands are going to be the pretty much opposite of fast tracks. Well, Belgium is to
part of
some
Spa.
extent. Spa's such a great track because it's got everything. That's one of the reasons it's such a legendary circuit. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I'm really
but
hoping it doesn't get flooded out this year.
yeah, hopefully, do the reverse rain dance. Um, but then we go back to Italy and Monza, and then that's where they'll probably shine. Uh, but with Red Bull's DRS package being so insanely good, I don't see Max not winning that one either. But Max will probably win the rest of the races this season, if we're being honest, unless some reliability things happen. But even so, that'll be one
Who
DNF
knows? Maybe something crazy will happen in Vegas.
possibly, which is another really fast track. Have you been seeing the videos and the pictures of the globe thing that they just finished building?
I haven't. No, I haven't been keeping track very well.
Oh, they're just like this orb sphere thing. It's like a building that they're planning on hosting like UFC fights in and boxing and all those kinds of events.
Like the
But
Elon Musk
it's
Mark
got
Zuckerberg fight.
yeah, I hope so. um, which I hope happens. That I oh my goodness, I doubt it, but if it happened, that would be incredible. Anyway, that would be the only thing that would get me to actually want to pay for pay-per-view.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Also, if you hear crackling in the background, my girlfriend's cat has found a box of paper bags.
okay,
She's exploring it, so
gotcha.
okay. She's explored all of it. We're good.
We're good. We're good. All right. But anyway, there's this giant. It's like a sphere thing, and it has a giant like LED. I don't know if it's LED or I think it's LED. It's got this giant LED like outside of it, and so they can just make. Well, they can make the outside look like whatever they want.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, most of the time it's been like the pictures I've seen are like the Earth or the Moon or there's like this cool like reflective one they have. Then they did one that's like an eyeball.
Yeah, I just looked up the
pretty...
pictures. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But the F1 track goes around that, and so we'll get to see plenty of shots of that during the race, which is super cool. And it's a night race, so it'll be definitely lit up for the occasion.
I wonder if it'll be like a driver's view of the track or something like that, like some kind of race feed. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't know how they'd project that onto a sphere, but...
I wouldn't say it would look good, but it looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Got the fisheye view.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, so that's completed. The track, as far as I'm aware, is coming along nicely in terms of the construction of it.
Yeah, well, it's Vegas. They have so
to...
much money to throw at that thing. I find it hard to believe that they could be off schedule.
Yeah, that's very true. Vegas is becoming a big sports hub. Like, it's weird because they weren't like 10 years ago. They didn't really have any big teams, and now they've got hockey team, soccer team, football team. You're talking about an MLB team. And now there's F1 races going there. It's kind of exploding right now in the world of sports. But anyway, that's off topic.
Vegas is having a big mid-season upgrade.
Yes, huge. On McLaren's level for sure.
Yeah.
But Williams also has brought some mid-season upgrades that also seem to be working. Not quite as well as McLaren's, but they're to the point now where Albon is consistently scoring points, even if it's at the bottom of the points tree.
Yeah, Williams started a little further behind than even McLaren did.
That's true.
They had a little more ground over.
That's fair. But even still, I think it's really cool that they're finally actually able to score points.
It's Albon officially all aboard the Williams hype train.
Yeah, for sure. Albon, I think, is proving that he's a very talented driver. And he was just another victim of being a Max Verstappen teammate.
Yeah. I saw an interview where Helmut Marko was saying, unfortunately, Alex Albon is still, like, his contract with Williams is going to last a little longer. So it sounds like they were looking at Albon until they saw the contract stuff. Maybe they still are, who knows, as a potential future F1 Red Bull driver.
I don't know, man. If I were Albon, I would not go back to the Red Bull
at least
family.
From the gist of the interview that I saw. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't if I were him either, but I think it's interesting that Red Bull's looking back at him again, especially after they shunted Gasly so hard.
Yeah, for sure. Gasly wouldn't go back, that's for sure. But anyway, Albon's looking really good. I could see him working his way into a solid midfield team or a top team that's probably not Red Bull in the future, but maybe not. There's only a certain amount of seats, and there's so much talent on the grid, obviously. But we'll see. If McLaren can actually make their car stay good, then Lando might be more inclined to stay.
Yeah.
But he's got to start winning races, is the thing.
Now that McLaren has a little taste of what it could be like, and now they're going to want a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Ferrari is falling behind. They seem to not be making any sort of progress, really, in terms of speed. They're kind of where they were at the beginning of the season, and other people are just passing them up. And Aston Martin is kind of seeming to be in the same boat the last couple of races. Who knows, they might bring upgrades over the summer break. And Hungary is definitely more of a track that would suit Aston Martin, as they're really good in the low-speed corners. So I do anticipate they'll have a pretty good race in Hungary. But I don't know. We'll see. McLaren is just such a big... they've made such a big leap the last 2 races that it just seems like... I don't know. Maybe they're just that good, which I hope so, because I was getting concerned at the beginning of the season that we would never see them at the top of the field again. But that is not the case. Mercedes is also very consistent now. They weren't at the beginning of the year, but now they seem to be settling, getting anywhere from 2nd to 6th between the 2 drivers every race, it seems like.
Yeah, it seems to be more the other teams and their upgrades kind of shifting around them, but Mercedes themselves seem to be pretty consistent.
Yeah. Nick de Vries, I think his seat is more and more in jeopardy every race that goes on. I would not be surprised if we saw a driver switch mid-season. I would not be surprised if Daniel Ricciardo was that driver. And I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Lawson was that driver. But I would honestly kind of be surprised if De Vries made it to the second half of the season.
Yeah, from what I was seeing on Reddit, of course, the most reliable sources. We love Reddit.
Yes.
But I was seeing after Zandvoort, it looked like we would probably see some decision get made.
After Zandvoort?
Yeah.
That seems... Zandvoort's the first race after summer break, so do you mean like before Zandvoort? Or did it say after Zandvoort?
Maybe. But maybe they're going to let
maybe I could be wrong.
Home race and then boot him. Who knows?
Oh, that would make sense. That would suck.
Could you imagine getting rid of him right before his home race?
Oh, that would be... Oh... That would be rough. Let me check the schedule on RevHang.com real quick.
Oh, wow, you can do that?
Yes, you can do that. If you are ever curious, you can go to RevHang.com and check the schedule for IndyCar, Formula 1, and IMSA.
I bet that
yes, the Netherlands...
Oh, go ahead.
It's okay. It could be better. I'm hosting it through Squarespace, so it's not ideal, but... hopefully in the future we'll get some better.
The main F1 page.
Yeah, that is true. It's also, I think, a little easier to navigate through this website, but regardless, Netherlands is the first race after summer break on August 27th. So maybe they'll let him race in his. I wonder. Oh man, it would be so kind of like bad if they announced that he was losing his seat, but then they're just like, we're gonna let him race in the Netherlands just so we can.
I could honestly see that happening. So.
This would be his farewell race, but it'd be so depressing, especially if he DNF'd. Oh my goodness. Let's not speak that into existence, though, even though it's too late.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I don't see De Vries staying. Especially, he won't have a seat next year. I'm 95% certain of that. And I'm probably about 65% sure that he will lose his seat by the midseason.
Yeah. Do you think Ricciardo would be willing to step down to AlphaTauri? Because I know part of the reason he's now a Red Bull reserve driver is because he wasn't really willing to step down to a lower midfield team or a lower back marker team when he first lost his seat at McLaren.
At this point, where else would he go? Who else is going to take Ricciardo?
Also fair, yeah.
He's got... What is he... He's hoping... I don't know what his plan is. If it's not to go down to AlphaTauri, is he hoping that after 1 to 2 years off that they'll just shove him into Perez's seat? Because I don't think that's very likely.
Yeah, that is kind of a jump.
So I think they start him at AlphaTauri, hope he does well, and then possibly move him in to replace Perez, depending on how he does. I know we keep saying this every week, but I still think Palou is a valid option for Red Bull.
Yeah, I would love to see that. That'd be so cool.
That would be so cool. Pillo's very much in the McLaren camp right now, but I don't see McLaren ditching Norris or Piastri anytime soon. Piastri has been so good as a rookie.
Yeah, and
There's no
they have
reason
a
to
young.
change.
They could stay with
Yeah,
McLaren for a while and continue to get better.
absolutely. I could see Pillow going to McLaren if Lando left, but I don't see Lando leaving unless it's to go to Mercedes. Uh, and I don't see that happening until Hamilton retires, which he keeps saying is going to be another 5 years away. So, um, I think it'll be. I think Hamilton would retire in 2026 at the earliest if the Mercedes isn't good after the regulation change. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see Lando leaving anytime soon. Realistically, I don't see Piastri for sure leaving anytime soon. Um, so I think if Pillow does want an F1 seat, it's probably going to be the only one that makes sense to me is to replace Perez, or to have him go into AlphaTauri first, have Ricardo replace Perez for a season, and then watch Ricardo get
Yeah,
trashed again.
I don't know which one is riskier.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that could happen, but Perez is still under contract through next season, so if they were to pull Pillow on board into AlphaTauri next season alongside Daniel Ricciardo and have them fight out for the seat, uh, I think that's probably the best way they'd do it. But they'd have to drop Tsunoda and De Vries this season, which I don't think is necessarily the worst thing.
Yeah, yeah. You don't think that Red Bull would buy out Perez's contract if he keeps up the performance, kind of like what we saw today?
Um, I I want to say they wouldn't, but if he keeps qualifying, if he keeps not making Q3, like that's kind of ridiculous.
That's not good. And I mean, the last race before this one, at least he was able to climb back up into the podium. But this time, I mean, he wasn't really that close for being in the fastest car on the grid.
No, and it's like I get that he kind of got caught out with bad weather in Q1, but at the same time, like you're in the fastest car on the grid, so you kind of just have to deal with it and still perform. Um, I don't know. Perez is just it's it's rough.
It
It's
can be
kind
a
of hard to
long
watch.
road
It
to the
seems
end
like
of the
he's
season.
unraveling.
Hmm.
Yeah, it seems like he's kind of falling apart a little bit. I don't know if it's just a
Yeah,
mental block that he has to get over or uh, what's going on, but something has changed. This isn't normal for him, even though
yeah,
he's never been like super great at qualifying. But this is the first time I think since I know last week it was the first time that a Red Bull has missed Q3 4 times in a row since David Coulthard in like 2000, what was it, 2006 or 2008 or something like that, and now it's 5 times in a row. So I don't know if that's even ever happened. Um, and that's back when Red Bull was just a baby team that wasn't really
back in the bad old
competitive.
days.
So, the bad old days,
Yeah,
and now they're a championship winning team with Max being able to. Max Verstappen himself would be winning the Constructors' Championship right now. Um, which it's just, I don't know. Perez needs to figure something out. He's still second in the standing somehow, but Alonso is less than 20 points behind him.
yeah, and
Um,
he's 1 point away from being 100 points behind Max. And
yeah,
even if Max is, 3 times the driver that Perez is, which I don't necessarily believe he's that much better than any other driver. I mean, he's clearly on something, but Perez is really far behind him to be feeling too comfortable in his seat.
yeah, for sure. It's yeah. And then speaking of people that are maybe not super comfortable in their seat, even though this is like wild speculation, Lance Stroll is not what Aston Martin needs if they want any sort of shot at a championship in the future.
Alex Palou to Aston
Uh,
Martin.
yeah, that could happen too. That could very, very well happen. It's getting to the point where Lawrence Stroll is going to have to make a decision between making his son happy and winning.
And eventually he's going to want to win.
Eventually he's going to want to win. He
Especially
might
now
have...
car is so much faster than it has been in the past. It's like blood in the water.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like, how long do you let this go? Like, you gave your son... Stroll's been in the sport for, 8 years now almost?
A long time. Longer than I remember.
That's a long time for a Formula One driver, and it's I think his time is just about to the point where he might need to look at World Endurance or something. Maybe IndyCar.
Aston Martin IndyCar team.
That would be pretty sick, and that's something I could see Stroll doing too.
Cowards.
Yeah. I could see Stroll starting an IndyCar team, though. It seems kind of crazy to think about, but at the same time, I think he would really like the idea of having the same car as everybody else. And then just being able to outspend every other team and every other department except for, like, McLaren. And just have an insane amount of cars running the best drivers with the best strategists. Like, that seems like it could be really appealing to him.
Yeah.
But who knows? We'll see. And if that happens, then I think Lance Stroll's days are definitely numbered if they start an IndyCar team.
Yeah. Although IndyCar isn't so much a constructors' championship, so might not be into that as much. I don't know.
No, but it's... I mean, teams do earn legendary status even in IndyCar, even though it's not really a constructors' championship.
There's definitely better. I see what you're saying.
It's just like the difference between like Ed Carpenter Racing and Penske.
Okay,
stuff like that. So I don't know. If he wants the prestige, I could see him doing that. But also he might just want to focus his efforts on F1, which I could also see. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. That is very speculative, but I don't think Stroll is going to be in the sport forever like a lot of people think he is.
Yeah, and I would love to see Alonso, if for however long he stays, get paired up with a younger driver to kind of carry the torch forward.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be cool to see Alonso like mentor somebody that's new to the sport, like someone like Palou, that's maybe got a lot of speed but doesn't have the F1 experience.
Some hot young IndyCar driver, just fresh off a couple championship wins. I can't think of his name now, but
I don't know. Or maybe some other hot young IndyCar driver that hasn't had the success he wanted in IndyCar, but would love to move over to F1 and has already been in that paddock a few times. But that won't happen unless he gets he needs the super license points, and unless the system changes, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, Colton Herta, poor guy. But
my dear IndyCar frat boy.
Yes. Championship standings. Not too much has shaken up in Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors, like we already talked about, McLaren did pass Alpine for P5. They are now 98 points behind Ferrari in P4, so they probably won't catch Ferrari by the end of the season, but who knows? If they keep finishing like podium, then they might. And Ferrari is finishing 9th and 10th. But I just looked, and we're now just barely halfway through this F1 season, and Max Verstappen is on course to hit over 500 points. Red Bull's gonna hit over 800 points. Records are gonna be broken. I didn't actually do the math I meant to earlier, but I think Max is gonna destroy the win percentage rate. I think he can even lose one more, or not win one more race, and then if he wins the rest of them, then he'll have that well in hand, beating Alberto Ascari at 86% win rate.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. So if he has a season like that, he'll also obviously destroy his own record of most race wins in a season, which I think was 16 last season, and he'll definitely have it way over 16 this year.
Yeah, not having
He's already got 10.
a check and balanced Max Verstappen has really just allowed him to run rampant.
Yeah, he had 16 last season. He's already at 10 this season, and we're halfway through the year. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. But moving on to the pit stop championship, Lando Norris won this week with a time of 2.23 seconds. Not the fastest we've ever seen, but still pretty quick. Red Bull had an off day with Perez in P6 at 2.42 and Verstappen all the way down in P12 at 2.76. And I actually did change and update the numbers to be correct this week.
Very useful.
Yeah, very, very useful. That's kind of the notables in the pit stop championship. Standings have not changed much, other than Norris has jumped Verstappen in the pit stop championship. Is now ahead of him by 1 point, but is still 93 points behind Perez. So I don't see that gap closing anytime soon, especially with how good Perez always is. Verstappen's down at P4, which is kind of insane, but not that it really matters if he's winning the actual championship.
Yeah, he shouldn't
Red
feel
Bull,
too bad about that.
No. Red Bull is way out in front in the constructors. Ferrari is close behind. Well, not close behind. They're behind by 72 points. No, 62 points. I can math. And then McLaren and Alpine are separated by 1 point for P3 and 4. That's kind of the pit stop championship summary we've got for this week. The overtake of the week, we gave it to George Russell on Charles Leclerc on lap 31 of the British Grand Prix. It was a fantastic switchback coming out of that really tight left-hander. I forget what it's called. It is turn 6. He switched. He cut back. Gave him the old switcheroo around turn 6, and then went around the outside of turn 7, and just had so much more grip than Leclerc did, and made it work, and it was pretty stunning.
Yeah, Leclerc was in dire straits the entire race.
Yeah,
It seemed like
I saw
the dude
him
was
down
not
in
having a good time.
Yeah, I saw him down at 10th at one point. I was just like, what? What's happening? Where did he finish this race? 9th. Yeah, and Sainz was 10th. Not a great race for Ferrari. Yeah.
Got beat by Albon, right?
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
Williams is faster than Ferrari. Like, what's happening? All right. Let's go over our weekly predictions now. Starting with this week's for the British Grand Prix. Top 5, to remind everybody, was Verstappen, Norris, Hamilton, Piastri, and Russell. Give me your top 5 predictions, Ben.
Yeah, I had Verstappen correct, obviously. But I really had Perez doing a lot better and Leclerc doing a lot better. And Russell had an okay race. Alonso was a little off based on where he previously has been. And Albon actually did really well, but he didn't quite make it up into the top echelon of points. But I'll consider that like a 0.5 win.
Yeah, pretty good. Not too bad.
Yeah.
I also had Verstappen in first, obviously.
That's the free bingo space.
Yeah. And then I had Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, and Perez finishing my top 5, with Lando Norris as my dark horse. So I absolutely nailed that. Yeah. And then I got everything else pretty much wrong, but it's fine. I don't think anyone expected Piastri anywhere near the top 5, but here we are.
Yeah. At least we both got a fastest lap correct.
We did. We both said Verstappen, and it went to Verstappen. And then let's look at driver of the day. It went to Lando Norris.
I got it right.
You did get it right, Ben. Great job. I think I almost said Norris, but I chose Lewis Hamilton. Lando Norris got, I think, over 50% of the vote by the time it was done.
Completely
For
deserved it.
driver of the day.
Him or Piastri,
Absolutely
really.
deserved it. Yeah. Yeah, I think Norris absolutely deserved that one. Such a good race. And there you go. I will happily give you the point for that one, Ben.
Yeah, and no crashes this year.
No crashes. No.
There was a little fender bender with DeVries, and then Alcon's car stopped working, and Magnussen's car stopped working, but there were no shunts into the wall, no rollovers, no
Nothing
50
crazy. We did
crashes.
have
Yeah,
Stroll playing bumper cars and braking suspensions, but that was about as crazy as it got.
yeah, that's just business as usual.
But yeah, nothing scary like last season when everyone thought Guan Yu Zhou died. That was probably I'd say the most insane crash I've ever seen, but I also watched the Grosjean crash live, so...
Yeah. Yeah, Pagano had a pretty good crash in IndyCar last week too during the practice. That definitely
that
gave
one
my
was
heart
nuts.
a little spin.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy though. The more you see them rolling over, especially in gravel, usually the better it is because all that energy is being dispersed.
That is a good point. Yeah.
Because like Alonso had a really crazy crash, kind of like that in Australia, I think in 2016. Crashed with Esteban Gutierrez in a Haas, and ended up airborne and flying through the air, but he tumbled through the gravel at one point and it slowed him down, and his car was absolutely destroyed, but he got out and walked away fine.
Yeah, I guess using 100% of the car to slow you down.
Yeah, right. It looks scary, but it's actually the best thing. But for sure, it's definitely looks way scarier when when you see the car flipping over a bunch of times. I think honestly the most dangerous and scary crashes are the ones that happen on ovals, because you just have like concrete walls, and
it's
even
all forward speed.
Yeah, even the impacts that don't look super hard are ridiculously hard crashes. The one that Kyle Kirkwood had at Indy this year was pretty scary.
Yeah.
But
speaking of IndyCar,
anyway, yeah. Speaking of IndyCar, we got the Grand Prix of Toronto coming up next weekend. We've got 3 IndyCar races before the next Formula One race.
Yep.
This first one is the Grand Prix of Toronto. I don't know what the official name is, but that's what I'm calling it. Who do you have for pole position, Ben? This is a street circuit, really tight, short street circuit.
Herta has gotten a really good qualifying the past couple races, and I know he's not going to convert it, but I feel like he has a shot at getting this pole too.
Okay.
As long as pit strategy doesn't come into it, I think he has a chance.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thinking about it, the only the pit lane was the reason he lost both of the last 2 races, which is kind of sad. But
yeah, refreshing to see him not, but definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So you have Herta on pole. I have Pato O'Ward taking pole position. He's usually pretty good at street circuits. I really thought about putting Grosjean up there, but I think his confidence is shattered since the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So I decided not to.
Yeah, I thought about it too.
All right. Podium, what do you got?
In no particular order, I have Palou, Dixon, and Ericsson.
Okay. And I have Palou, O'Ward, and Newgarden. I think both podiums we have here are very doable, especially since Palou was on both of them.
Yeah, that's a free space.
Almost, it seems like. Winning number of pit stops, what do you got, Ben?
I put 3.
And I have 2.
I wasn't quite bold with a 1 pit stop race in IndyCar.
That'd be something to see. All right. That rounds off the Grand Prix of Toronto. Next up, we've got our first race in Iowa. These are both 250-lap races. There are 2 races 2 weeks from now. One on Saturday and one on Sunday. It is an oval. I have double-checked to make sure. uh, actually, I didn't, but I know for a fact this is an oval.
Yeah.
Um, they're both 250 lap races. I did double check on that. So it's essentially the same race. One thing, if this affects your pole position guess on either one of these, Ben, unless you're just hedging your bets, there is only one qualifying session for both races.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to change or if you want to keep it hedged like it is now.
um, I'll hedge my bets. I'll give myself essentially 2 tries. If I'm wrong, I'll be really
Okay,
wrong. If I'm right, at least I'll be halfway right.
halfway right. All right. So first race in Iowa, who do you have on pole position?
I've got Ericsson or Pato Award.
Okay, well, that's what you had for the other one.
Yeah.
Um, so Ericsson for Iowa qualifying, you have Ericsson or Pato Award. I doubled down on Joseph Newgarden for both races,
Yeah. If you asked me to really
which
choose, I
is
think I'd probably go Ericsson.
okay. Yeah, Ericsson was actually what I wrote the first time, and then I'm like, maybe not. He hasn't been super good lately, but it could happen. He is very good at ovals. Podium. What do you have for the first race, Ben?
I've got Award, Ferrucci, and Ericsson.
Interesting. Okay, throwing Ferrucci in there.
Yeah.
Um,
I've
I
seen him kind
have
of get some better placement, so I figured I'd give it a shot.
yeah, especially in ovals. He
Yeah.
got second at Indy, so he could very well do pretty well at other places. Um, Newgarden, Pelot, and Dixon was my pick for the first race.
Solid
What do you have
podium.
for your? Thank you, sir. What do you have for your winning number of pit stops?
I've got 4.
And I've
I think
got 3.
just shoving them full of fuel, shoving them full of tires.
Yep. Got those short stints.
Yeah.
250 laps. Oh, jeez. I am way off. It's gonna be like 5 or 6 actually I think. But okay, we made our
Oh
choice.
yeah, 200.
Uh,
I just did that math. Yeah.
all
For some
right.
reason, I was like, oh,
Pulp.
that's like 4 pit stops, right? No, it's not.
It's like no, that's at least like 6.
Yeah. Okay.
uh, okay. Well, we'll take the L on that one.
Yeah.
Uh, pole position. What do you have, Ben? Oh, we already did this. Podium
Yeah.
for the second race.
I've got Award, Dixon, and Pelot.
Okay. And I have Award, Ericsson, and Pelot. So we are kind of on the same page here.
We swapped Ericsson for each podium.
For Dixon, yeah. And each podium for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Winning number of hit stops, we did the same because it's the exact same race.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was different though?
It would be funny if it was different. All right. Hungarian Grand Prix for Formula One. Let's see. Top 5, Ben. What do you have?
I have Verstappen, obviously. And then I have Hamilton, Alonso, Norris. I don't want to go all in on McLaren just yet. And then Russell. And then I've got Science as my dark horse just to rub it in.
Okay. My top 5 was Verstappen, Alonso, Hamilton, Perez, and Norris, with Albon as my dark horse. I too
Solid.
did not want to go full on McLaren yet. In addition to the fact that I think, just based on the strengths I've seen in their cars, I think this might not be their strongest track coming up. Hungary is very tight and twisty, and that is more of a Aston Martin kind of thing. So
It's also the name
I
of
still have
my
Norris in
new
5th
memoir.
there. Of what?
My new memoir.
What, tight and twisty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyway, yeah, some jokes don't always land. It's okay. We can move past it. It's fine.
Okay. I'm sorry. Alex Albon was my dark horse if I didn't say that already.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, fastest lap,
It's
we both have Verstappen. I don't see it going any other way, and no one else does either, I don't think. Driver
yeah.
of the day. What
I've
do you
got
got?
Norris again. I think if Norris puts in another good performance, I think there's a solid chance he gets another driver of the day.
Okay, going for the three-peat.
Yeah,
I have Alex Albon getting driver of the day. Because
yeah.
I could see him doing well. Williams, for some reason, does do pretty well at Hungary. This is where George Russell scored his first points for Williams, and also Nicholas Latifi. They got that double points
Oh
finish, I
yeah.
think, in 2021, I believe.
Weird.
So this could be a secret Williams track. And if that's the case, then Albon might do pretty well. And if he
Yeah.
does, then he will definitely get driver of the day. If he finishes top 5, he will get driver of the day, almost guaranteed.
Yeah. If Norris and Piastri didn't exist in this last race, I could have seen Albon getting driver of the day for that.
Yeah, he was up there. He was kind of anonymous, but he was like up there. He was, like you said, past the
Yeah.
Ferraris. So, all right, that rounds off our predictions for the upcoming 4 races. uh, I'm excited to see what happens. We're gonna have a long episode next time around. What do you got for our words of wisdom today, Ben?
So I talked about painting earlier, but it's really honed in the need for kind of beater clothes for just doing awful jobs. Like if you're out in the backyard weed whacking or working on like greasy, oily engines or cars and painting rooms, it's nice just to have like a comfy set of clothes that you're not afraid to just get dirty and wash separately from everything else.
Absolutely. I have ruined many shirts thinking, oh, I won't spill oil on it when I change my oil. And I
It
was
always
wrong.
happens.
Every time.
The
Um,
closest, I guess, the one you're wearing.
yes. But that rounds off our episode for this week. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on. It really helps us out. If you want to see updated standings for IndyCar and F1 or a calendar of upcoming races from all sorts of different series, check out our website, RevHang.com. If you have a question about racing or about us, hit us up on Twitter using hashtag RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show. You can also follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and myself at 2N_squared. And follow RevHang Media on Instagram, where I post a couple of prediction type things every week, and you can also get notifications when our next podcast episode goes live. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about the IndyCar Grand Prix of Toronto, the first and second Iowa races, and the Formula One Hungarian Grand Prix. But until then, I have been Nathan.
And I'm Ben.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See ya.